Looking around, I finally see I think I need a change. The rat race, I wanna flee, my world I'll rearrange. I'm getting back to the roots of how it's meant to be. Growing gardens, picking fruit, racing livestock, living free. It's a modern homestead. Build a modern homestead.
Hello and welcome to the Modern Homesteading Podcast. We're your hosts, Harold Thornborough and
Rachel Jameson.
I'm glad you're joining us today. And today we're going to talk about, what are we talking about? We're talking about 21 useful backyard build projects for your homestead. And I think it's going to be pretty fun because I've always got all these ideas of all these things. Some of these things I have built, some of these things I want to build. Maybe a couple of these things I haven't been on my radar, but they're on yours to build. But yeah, I think they're going to be fun to talk about. But before we get into that, what's been going on in your homestead, Rachel?
Well, I have been pretty busy on the homestead this week. I've been ordering asparagus crowns. I ordered more seeds, which I probably didn't need. And I tried my hand at some indoor plant propagation. So not even like anything you can eat or use medicinally. I just like it. And it's called money tree.
Don't even know what that is.
Braid themselves around each other as it grows. And so I'm trying to propagate that from a friend's cuttings. And I started reading Coppice Agroforestry by Mark Krozek. I probably pronounced that wrong.
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce Croxic or something like that.
That is a very thick book. Like,
yeah,
it's thick. And I'm really excited to read that. So I started that, and so that has been my week, and I'm really excited to get the asparagus crowns, but shouldn't be planting it.
Where'd you order those from?
So I took this risk. Oh, I might have to put it in the show notes because I can't remember. I took a risk and I Googled somewhere in Michigan. I wanted to have some that were more acclimated to our climate, and I found some in Michigan. But people had posted some good reviews about them, and I had never heard of this company, and it's basically the only thing they sell.
Wow. Well, that's how you find good companies. So
yeah, and they were selling 2-year-old crowns, not 1 year.
Oh, wow.
So, so we'll see. I guess
keep us up on that.
If they grow well, I will let you know. But I'm really excited. I think I ordered 100 crowns because I'm going to put them in my plant or in my tree guilds and stuff. So
nice. Yeah, that'll be great.
We
so
love
you're gonna put
asparagus.
So you're putting that at the new property. That's what the 20 property. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Great.
I might put some next to some fruit trees here. I don't really have a problem with putting anything here as I'm kind of out of space.
Right. It tends to happen on urban homestead.
Especially for something that's permanent like asparagus.
Yeah. That's how I do.
Moves.
You find room for some things. Some things you avoid because you just don't have the room for them. And I've done that for years. There's just some things I don't grow because they take up a lot of space, and you look at the production of it and how much room it takes and how long it might take to get it. And it's like, you just kind of have to weigh what you're growing and figure if it's right or not for your property.
So what did you do this week?
I did the complete opposite of you. I did almost nothing. I tried to stay alive. I tried to keep animals alive while I was trying to stay alive. I had the flu really bad, and I'm not over it entirely yet.
Well, I'm glad you could join me today. I was thinking I might have to do this one alone.
Yeah, I even had to go a day late on posting the last podcast because I just could not. I've had zero energy and not been feeling great. Missed some work, and I've been able to take food and water to the animals, and that's about it.
Right.
Even online, even getting on the computer or even checking email and things have been like, I don't even want to do that.
Well, normally Harold beats me to because I work during the week and he works weekends, and normally Harold beats me to the topic notes and gets them going. And I kept looking in the notes, and I'm like, man, there's nothing going on there. And so then I just started adding stuff, and it was supposed to start as 12. And I went over to my Pinterest page and found all the things I've been wanting to do or have done, and we ended up with 21.
Yeah, and I think it's a really good list too, because there's a few things on there I hadn't even. I mean, there are things I've thought about in the past. I was like, oh yeah, I didn't think about that this time, around. But there's some good stuff on there on the list. But before we get into that, we started last week doing our little book recommendation because I like doing a book recommendation. And while we have plenty of books, we thought we'd share them with you. What's your book this week?
My book is actually a children's book. Hopefully, people don't mind that. But I think we probably have a lot of parents in the podcast listeners. It is called The Paddle to the Sea by Holling C. Holling. It was written I believe it was in 1950s they were written. But he wrote a whole series of these. But this one specifically is about the Great Lakes. It's about, they call them First Nation peoples, but in the United States we call them Native Americans. So First Nation people, a little boy carves a boat, and on the side of the boat it says, "Put me back in the water." And he waits for the snow to melt, and the snow melts, and this little paddle to the sea, which is what he's called, this little boat floats all the way through the Great Lakes and out the St. Lawrence Seaway and makes it out into the ocean. And the story is about that. But the book is actually like a whole geography book. I mean, you can make a whole curriculum out of this. And so the kids learn so much about geography and water, and it's just really cute. It was one of my kids' favorite ones. And it's so popular around here that we actually have a local group that wrote a song about it, which I also linked in the YouTube, a song called Paddle to the Sea. And it's just a really sweet book. It was one of my kids' favorite books.
What age group do you think it's probably the best for?
All ages, because I would read it again.
Okay. Well, it's too young.
I loved it. Yeah, there's just tons of information. It's hard for me to explain the amount of information that's in the book, and you can make it as deep as you want and go down rabbit holes with studying about, ships, and because it talks about the ships and the sulaks, which some people from where you're at may not know, but the sulaks are a pretty big deal here. And so it talks about those and going through the sulaks and big ships, and but
might have to check this out for my grandkids. I bet they'd enjoy something.
Oh, they would love it. And he has several. He has another one about seabird, another one about the tree and the trail, and their geography / history / you could study big ships and stuff. And there's tons of drawings in it too. They're really good. And you can usually find them at the library.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. And you can get them in audiobook, and we just had a blast with them. And then when you're homeschooling, you actually there's a company that makes these huge wall maps that the kids can learn to use maps by
Wow, this is the whole thing, huh?
Yeah, it's really cool. It's kind of a curriculum, but it's probably really geared toward probably 8 to 12-year-olds is probably but younger kids might enjoy it, but but especially older kids like me.
Well, you got the links in the show notes for that. So yeah, folks, check that out. Sounds interesting. Yeah. I went the opposite of you. You went super kid friendly, simple. I went with the really in depth and complex but enjoyable. I like it. I chose Permaculture, Principles and Pathways Beyond Sustainability by David Holmgren. I really like this book, but it's deep.
I have never read it.
You've never read it?
No.
Are you serious? I thought you probably had read it.
No.
And it's David Holmgren's.
I'm gonna have to put that on my wish list.
Yeah, it's his book. It basically I think when you're studying the foundations of permaculture, everybody thinks about Bill Mollison, but the co-founder is David Holmgren.
Yeah.
And they kind of worked together and did a lot of this, this research. And then he wrote this book. So yeah, it's a really good book, and it lays out the principles, and it gets pretty deep, and it's a good I mean, I like it. It's good stuff. And but it's not a kid's book.
No,
it's pretty deep. It gets pretty deep, but I enjoy it. And
maybe
it really,
a young adult book though, if they're really interested in it.
Yeah, it takes you to that level of understanding in permaculture that's about the principles, and the why and the and that. So it's enjoyable if you're looking for that deeper understanding of permaculture. And I think it helps you take permaculture beyond the homestead and into more of a life principle, and thinking about it in all aspects too. So I think it kind of really it's the beginning of that. So it's a good book. You notice the cover on it, showing you a picture of it in the video here, but notice it's like, it looks like it's recyclable cardboard or something.
It does. It does. Yeah.
I'm sure that's all on purpose, but yeah, it's a good book.
Of course.
So, okay. Yeah. Link for that in the show notes as well. So on to our topic, 21 useful backyard build projects for your homestead. I put the first one on here as a solar dehydrator. I've talked about it for a few years now, building one. And I think I said yours recently, I think this is the year I'm going to build a solar dehydrator. I really want one. I have a couple of ways I dehydrate things. Of course, I have my electric dehydrator. And then I just got for Christmas this year that one of those bags that hang, and it's got like all these compartments in it, and you can basically air dry things with that as well. And it has like the zipper for each compartment. You just fill it up with your herbs or whatever and just let it hang and air dry, and it keeps the, things away from it or whatever. And I like that. I think that's going to work great too, but I want to, fast dry a lot of things, solar dehydrate things. And I think that would be a great way to do it. And I mean, I dehydrated so much stuff this last year that my dehydrator was just running 24/7 for like 3 months. And I thought, I really need a big outside built solar dehydrator with trays in it. I can just fill up and load up and save myself a lot of electricity and wear and tear on my dehydrator, and just do a lot more in bulk, and really keep it going.
Yeah. I love this idea. I mean, we just got a letter in the mail, as many people are, that our electric's going up. So I really like the idea.
Yeah. And
you're going to have to keep document this for us. And
well, there's some great plans out there. Yeah. And I put a couple of links in the show notes for some plans. There's one from Mother Earth News and one from a college extension, and you can just check those out. And there's other plans too. There's a lot of different designs for solar dehydrators. Right. There's some that are the most common design. That I think that's probably the one I'll go with, that you see a lot of out there. And they take up a lot of space. Don't get me wrong. They do take up a little bit of space, but they just work really good. I mean, people swear by them and how well they work. And hey, it's basically a free way of doing it. I mean, you don't have to use electricity to dehydrate your veggies and your meat. I mean, you can put meat in them and anything else. I mean, they get really, really good and warm. So I mean, they work really good from everything I've seen. Yeah, they work really good. So it's definitely something I want to build. You kind of took it to for drying, but in a different area by putting something else on here.
I put a drying rack for onion and garlic. And this was kind of a selfish thing myself as well, because I've wanted to do this project. And I found a couple of different plans on how to do it. And so I think we're going to try to do that this year, because one of my goals these last couple of years, is been to grow more and more of my onions and garlic and build up, especially my garlic stash, just because you need the cloves to do that. And we just use lots of onion and garlic. So
yeah. Is this like the small squared fence where you just drop it through the holes? Is that what you're looking at, or what's the design?
One of these looks, one of them looks a lot like almost like a rake.
Okay.
It's got like the long tines on it, but you hang it on like your like barn wall or shed
basically
wall.
It's like slide it.
You slide it in.
Slide it in.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the other
I
one
have
is
seen
more
that.
like you're like almost like a laundry line where you slide them over top of it.
Yeah.
Like you would take the greens and split them and they would hang.
Yeah.
So they're both pretty simple. The one looks like it might hold a little bit more. And I've also seen, which I could find a link for. I've also seen where you can, people use like a grid.
Yeah, that's what I do. I don't have the one specifically for that, but I have a fence area that's over the top of my Grace is my
oh, that's right. Yeah, you've seen
and I'll just drop it in those holes and I let it sit there and dry. But it's not, it's not ideal sometimes, because if it ends up raining, it's not covered. So I really would be better if I have some kind of a rack system and I could bring it under my gazebo.
Well, that's where
Yeah, and hang it in there. Maybe something hanging up in the
Mine
roof of
got
that.
rained on this year, and that's part
Yeah.
of why the reason I liked the one that had the long tines is you could make it longer. You could, if you put it in the right spot, you could put several of them up, but it also could serve another purpose for hanging things up
Yeah.
when you're not using it. I
And
love dual purpose things.
yeah, if you could get some, if you can stack functions with your equipment, that's your builds. That's even better. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because you could hang coats on it or,
Hmm.
anything. So I like
Yeah.
that idea.
Which I suppose you could do with the next thing with the solar dehydrator. You could make a combo cold smoker solar dehydrator.
Ooh, there you
Feed some,
go.
maybe be able to close off the solar front of it and let this have it feed smoke into the back. Ooh, I just thought of a new design maybe by thinking
Anything
about that.
smoker, I want.
I would like to have a cold smoker. I think it'd be fun build some kind of
Or what do you want to cold smoke?
everything.
Cheese.
My quail meat, rabbit meat,
Okay.
fish, some vegetables.
You would rather cold smoke it than hot smoke it?
Yeah. I
like
think
what would be the
rather.
difference? Because I guess we've only ever hot smoked things like in our smoker.
Yeah, I think it just for preserving, I think it does a better job. I think, and then you can do things like salts and things like that as well.
Ooh, yeah.
And cold smoke them.
Smoked salt is amazing.
Yeah, so I would kind of like to. Which the thing is, you'd basically have the place where you would put the stuff, and then you have a fire away from it, and the flue or whatever kind of go to it. Yeah, so it has time to cool down before it gets to it a certain amount.
I've seen them, but I've just never used them.
Yeah, so there's some good designs out there. I post. I think the link that I put in has several designs in it, so I just like pick one, and I'm not sure exactly which one I would go with yet, but I think I would like to build one. I don't know if this might be the year I do that or not. The solar dehydrator is on the list for this year for sure. Cold smoker, maybe another year or two, who knows? But it is on my list of something I'd like to add to the property eventually. The next thing I actually have, do you have one?
I need one so bad.
A garden vegetable wash station. I built one a few years ago. Now the one I built is not the way I would build it now, though. If I built another one, I would definitely make a bigger one. Yeah, I would definitely want a bigger one, and that would be a little bit better for drying. It's great for washing, not so great for drying. Because
this one that you put up is pretty cool. I like it.
Yeah. The thing is that I made mine. It's solid top. It's solid wood top, and I would want a hardware cloth top so you can so the water can drip off of it, and it can dry. And I didn't do that when I built mine, so I might do some changing at some point on and build me a better one. But yeah, garden vegetable wash stations, it's great to have because you're dragging a lot of that stuff in your kitchen, and you get all this dirt and all these just everything. Plus you can keep the water out there too. You can reuse the water. Like I just set 5-gallon bucket under mine. I hook it to a hose. I keep the 5-gallon bucket, and then I reuse that water in my garden. Or I can even hook a hose to it and let the water run to my garden and rewater my garden. So it's like,
I think this just moved up a little bit higher on my priority list.
Yeah,
now that you were talking about reusing the water,
you're keeping your soil out there because you're washing it off of the
right. And I spent a ton of money making my soil nice,
and you're keeping the water out there and you're reusing your water. So it kind of serves a few purposes. Plus, it just keeps your kitchen clean and cleaner, which is nice. Yeah. So
yes, it would be nice.
And I like having it. So I think it's an important little project to build, in your property there. So
yeah,
you got the next one.
This next one, I think you and I both were gonna. I don't know who put this one in. I put this one, the link in here, but I think we both were considering this the compost sifter. Mm-hmm. This one I thought was really cool, and it's the link is through Mother Earth News, and there's plans and everything. But I thought it was cool how they had put rollers on it. And it's basically a sifter that goes over top of your wheelbarrow. Mm-hmm. So you can sift your compost. You can get all those big parts out of it. It's a pretty cool design. And,
I've seen a really cool one time where they just hung it almost like a swing from a tree limb. And then they'd pull it was like hanging flat. They tied ropes to it and they had it hanging from a tree. And then they would just basically roll their wheelbarrow up under it. And then because it was hanging, they would just shimmy it back and forth like a swing. And it would, they just take the shovel and dump something on it, shake it, swing it back and forth over the wheelbarrow and let it, sift it through that. And that worked out really well too.
Yeah. What we have now is basically a square with hardware cloth on it, and you throw the shovel of stuff through it, and that gets some of it. And then you have to shake it yourself. So it's a little bit of effort. It works. Yeah. This one looks like it'd just be a little bit more easy, a little bit easier to do, but it would take some building skills. So, yep.
Well, the next one's something we both probably have a ton of on our property, but
Yeah.
you can always have more. And it's a good project for anybody to build. I mean, if anybody doesn't have them, vertical growing is great.
Yes.
When you can go up, when you can't, especially when you ain't got no room to go out, is awesome. So build some trellises. There's all kinds of designs. I've got 7, 8 different kinds of trellises at least on my property of things I've built. What kind of things do you have in mind when you're thinking about trellises?
Well, so at our house, I didn't put a link to the ones that we actually use because my husband kind of made them up. I should maybe put a picture in there, but we used the metal conduit, and he bent it, and that's what we use. And we put them over re-rod, which is for concrete, that we pound into the ground, and then we just slide the conduit over it.
We call that rebar down here.
The rebar, yeah. And did I say re-rod? Rebar. And so that's what we use. But I want to make some prettier ones because they're very functional. They last forever. We've had them forever because I think they're aluminum. They don't even rust. I wanted to build some I love the old school, like English gardens with using the sticks and stuff and tying them together. I just love that look. So that's what I would like to do. The other thing I have done in the past when the kids were little is I've made like the teepees where you grow peas or
we do that.
Vines up it and the kids can sit under it. And the links have some of that in there. And I saw one too where it was like a playhouse, not a teepee, but an actual like house structure that you can grow stuff up and the kids can play in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so there's some of those. That's what there's so many different ideas on what you can make for trellises. I mean, you can make rounded ones, you can make just teepee ones,
it's become pretty popular lately is the cattle panel, using cattle panel trellises. And you were talking about this not being real pretty, the kind your husband makes, that they're durable, but they're not the most beautiful thing. Well, I seen what somebody did with those cattle panel ones was they took grapevines and ran around the edges of those and tied them on. So it looked like it was a lot of grapevine hoop, basically cattle panel. I guess you could probably do the same thing, something like that. Take some grapevines and tie it onto it and make it look a lot nicer, using grapevines or something to tie it onto it. But yeah, cattle panels are huge these days. Just fences. I mean, I have a fence on my property and we just trellis up that a lot of times, peas and things like that right on a fence.
Yeah.
We actually use a lattice on a couple ones I made, and I have lattice, and I grow pole beans up those, and it works really good. But you're right, those teepees, I made several of those teepees this last year on for the beans and things, and it worked really good.
And they just look so cool. I mean, it just makes your garden look cool. And when you're on a small piece of property, it definitely makes that space last further. But even if you're on a big piece of property, I think they serve a purpose, especially if maybe your soil isn't the greatest. And it takes a lot of effort to make your soil nice. So you make your garden smaller. And if you go up, you can do that. So
yeah, we'll revisit trellis here in a few minutes when we get down to another thing you put on here. But till then, I guess we'll go to what might be kind of a big item for a lot of people is an outdoor kitchen. You put an outdoor kitchen. You want an outdoor kitchen. Kitchens are great.
Really bad.
We have a somewhat outdoor kitchen. We got our gazebo. Now we didn't put like an actual stove out there, but I do have we have our grill there, and then we have my garden wash station is under the gazebo, and I have it, and I have actually, the hose running to it permanently, and I have the drain hose going out towards the garden and all that stuff. So we kind of have some of those things set up, but when you think about it, you're going to take it to a whole nother level, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, and when I say outdoor kitchen, I mean, I've seen some outdoor kitchens that are outdoor kitchens. I mean,
literally like household appliances,
countertops,
refrigerators, everything out there. Yeah,
that's not really what I'm talking about. Although you could do that if you want to do that. That's a really big expense. I'm talking about like just being able to cook outside, a little bit more primitive with probably at our property with like being able to cook with wood and stuff like that. But I have seen in this link that I have, there's like, somebody just took a kitchen stove top and added propane to the bottom of it. I mean, the sky's kind of the limit. I just wanted something with a roof over it. So if it was raining, I could still be out there. I could can out there instead of heating the house up. I just
this one here might be a little bit of a cheat because we can actually put a whole bunch of different kinds of builds under outdoor kitchen or outdoor.
You could. Yep.
Fireplace cooking, because we're talking about rocket stoves, solar ovens, pizza ovens. I mean, you could do all kinds of different things in there. You could actually build a whole different, whole bunch
and
of
you could make it as crazy expensive and beautiful, or you could go really simple and total DIY it.
Yeah.
So,
I built a rocket stove out of a barrel and a couple years ago, and it works pretty well. I mean, I've actually canned on it before and and cooked on it several times, and it'll do it. I mean, it gets pretty hot, and it works really nice. But I have wanted to build a pizza oven. I've wanted a pizza and bread oven outside for a few years. It's something I've said, I think this year I'm going to do it, and I keep putting it off. But it's kind of in that. Really. Yeah, it's in that same vein there of things that we can talk about. Yeah, again, you put it on down the list in fire pits or whatever there, so we can look at it later. But all these things you can cook with outside. So just outdoor cooking space. But you're even considering like just a fireplace outside, right? I mean, just like a. Yeah.
So we like to sit around the wood stove not the wood stove. We like to sit around the fire at our property, but we have issues with where the wind is coming from. So we're going to have to get creative so that it will stay going better and it's not blowing flames, which is a little bit dangerous when you're in the middle of the woods.
Yeah, so, for sure.
Yeah. So we're probably going to make something a little different. But I also, even at our property here at our house, we love to sit around the fire. It's one of our favorite things to do. And I had a couple of,
we're skipping all over the place. I was just going to say, because I jumped all over the place.
You jumped down to.
I did, because they kind of went together. I kind of just jumped on down.
Yeah. So there's a couple of them that you can make like concrete fire pits, and they look really pretty, but you could sit around them. You could put them in your backyard in town, and people would just think it was really, really cool. We'll probably do something a little bit nicer here in town so we can sit around the fire here.
Well, I'm sorry I messed you up there. Let's just go back to where we're supposed to be then, and let's talk about growing stuff, some infrastructure to grow stuff, which is greenhouse, mini tunnels. What did you mean by pyramids there? You put pyramids.
Because I've seen people make I don't know how to explain it, except for it's do you call it a calash? Oh, over in Europe, they would make single little mini greenhouses.
Cloche is what I've heard. I think. Okay. Yeah.
You put over top of
like the glass domes.
Yeah, like you can make them glass. I've seen people make them out of wood, and then they actually use greenhouse plastic. Put over certain plants to protect them or to give them more heat. Like if they're a heat-loving plant, like maybe a hot pepper. Just those little things for your garden, and you can make them look really pretty, or they can be just totally functional.
Yeah, and I tell you, I put up a greenhouse here a few years ago, and I love it. And there's been years where I used it like crazy, and years I used it less. But it's been helpful, Now I helped a friend put up a cattle panel greenhouse a few years ago too, and he just got tons. And we made it out of cattle panels and pallet wood, and and it worked great. Exactly. And he used that for years, and he's been able to do a lot of neat stuff with that too. Keep stuff going, start seeds in there, get plants going early. And he's a market gardener, so he likes to grow a lot of things in there to take to the market. So having a greenhouse is great.
Well, absolutely. And the other thing too, I'm thinking about with a greenhouse, or even these little, I'm going to say it wrong again, cloches, is when you're saving seeds or, pest prevention. It stops cross-pollination. It keeps pests away, all those, just lots of reasons besides greenhouse extension, besides extending the season.
Yeah, you protect them from harsh weather or anything. Yeah, for sure. We got a hailstorm, in July, and wipe out a
Right.
garden, but if they're in a, in something, under something like that, it can save your plants.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure. Okay. So yeah,
I think I put this one on here. I think some people
Yeah.
might think this is weird, but um I am a huge barefoot. I'm like, I never have shoes on. And we also live on a small lake. So an outdoor shower, and it doesn't have to be like weird or anything, but I was actually more looking at for myself foot washing stations, like where to wash your feet off and keep them clean before you get back in the house. But it can even be just to rinse off if you're out in the garden and you're like all dirty, Sky, or you have a child or a pet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a link here with a bunch of really cool foot washing stations and outdoor shower ideas.
Nice. Yeah. When, I hadn't even been something I'd thought about building on this property, but I know when I went down to Florida for vacation to the beach a few months ago, and down there it's like you walk off that beach and you need to wash all the sand off and everything. So at every entrance to the beach, they have these basically foot washing stations or even showers. In a lot of the locations there, we can kind of spray down, get the sand off of you and whatnot, and super helpful. So you can imagine, if you're out there barefoot, whatever, in your garden working and stuff, super helpful. I think it'd be great.
It's another one of those keep the dirt outside things.
Yeah, for sure. Keep your garden in the garden.
Yeah.
Well, that goes well with the next thing we put on here, which is something I put on, which was solar water heater. You could actually tie that in with an outdoor shower and have a heated shower, which would be really neat. I hadn't thought a lot about solar water heater too much. I mean, I thought about it a few times, but I thought, it's not something I really need. But I actually heard somebody talking about it on a podcast recently, and they were talking about their setup. It was actually Nicole Sauce. I don't even know.
Okay.
I heard her talking about it on a podcast, and she's got a setup, I guess, and it ties into a water heater. So it's almost like a solar water heater assist, because it heats it, and then she's got like I guess one of them wall water heaters, the tankless water heaters, and it would basically take it up to the rest of the temperature, whatever it didn't do. So it would take it there, and it would just kind of top it off and make sure it got there. And I was like, that's just genius. I love that idea. And it sounded like it was simple, super easy to build. And, wintertime, I don't think it would work too well in Indiana. But, all summer long, you could save a lot of money because heating water is a big expense for sure.
Yeah, it is.
And, also, it could just be all your source of water heat too. If you did build a big enough system and had it set up right, or tied it into like you said, an outdoor shower, or something like that. I actually think it'd be a pretty neat build for a homestead, and it doesn't look that difficult. I put some plans in here for that I found, and looks super simple. The one using like PEX hose looked really easy. I think a better way to build it is probably out of like the copper tubing.
Probably
hold up a little bit better, but a cheaper way to do it is with the PEX.
The PEX, yeah,
and you could definitely build one easy with that.
And if you use like really outside, if you put this with your outside shower and used gravity,
yeah, if you mounted it on a roof or something, really, like I was sitting here, I kind of feel like my barn is my testing area for some things like this, like I could put it on the roof of the barn, and we have a bathroom in this barn, so we like have hot water run, and we have a tankless water heater in here, but I could just bypass that and run it, and just use that in the winter time and run the
well, you're going to have to give us another video then.
I'm like, you know what, I'm thinking this could be doable. I could see doing this out here, and before I may ever move it into a house or something, but definitely out here in the barn, definitely be something I could build.
Right. This is cool. I think it's also good. Like all of these work well for, some of these work really well for even like vacant. If you have a spot where you go camping and vacant land or whatever.
Some off-grid area. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we kind of touched on this next one a little bit already, the outdoor fireplace.
Yeah, we did.
We kind of skipped over with the outdoor kitchen, but it does tie in with the outdoor kitchen. But having, ways to cook those things, like we said, rocket stove and pizza ovens and bread ovens and earthen ovens of any kind or whatever. And there's just tons.
Three of these videos are Jas Townsend and Sons. If you guys do not follow Jas Townsend and Sons on YouTube, you should. But he has made several different earthen ovens that they have made bread in. And he's like I don't know, 1700s is kind of the era, I believe.
That they do this.
They do cooking, and they've made carved out canoes, and they've done a few hunting videos, and made a cabin, and it's just really cool. And the one I really want to do is he has one in here that you use kitty litter and sand.
Mm-hmm.
It's just super simple. The clay is the kitty litter, and you mix it together with the sand, and you make this little earthen oven, and it takes like 2 days, and then you're cooking in it. And I love the idea.
A lot of these projects can be pretty complex, or they can be super simple. Like you can make a rocket stove out of some bricks, you stack them and make it kind of temporary and make it work, or you can make something more permanent that's going to hold up for years and just be in a permanent place that you can use all the time. And so it's like you can do different things, or you can build
and they can be absolutely beautiful, or they can be totally just functional.
You can throw together a little temporary fire pit by stacking some rocks around in a circle and having a fire pit, or you can make an outdoor fireplace, and actually make something real elaborate. I mean, you can simple or as complex as you want it to be, really.
Yeah. When we did our maple syrup, we used a thrown together, nothing special, nothing beautiful rocket stove to boil down the sap.
Yeah.
And you can see the pictures in the Patreon episode, but there was nothing pretty about it, but it was functional.
Yeah. Yeah. It works, but if you're wanting to build something really nice and permanent on your property, there's some plans out there for some really nice stuff.
Yeah, there is.
Oh, we didn't even mention solar ovens. You put solar ovens in that list too.
I think sounds really fun. Where did I put that? Where is it?
It's under
the cooking. Okay. Yeah.
Fireplace. Yeah.
I have a friend that actually, I think she listens to this podcast, but, she does a lot of solar oven cooking, and they go off grid a lot in their camper. Actually, Dave and Sonia.
Okay, they were on the podcast
in that episode, and she uses the solar oven a lot to cook. And I guess I never thought they worked that well until I actually saw it in person once.
Is it one they've made, or is it one they've purchased?
They purchased one.
Okay, yeah, there's some nice ones that you can purchase that work really, really well.
Yep. You can make them though, and I just never thought them as. I thought, you can take 2 days to cook your thing. No, they actually can get quite hot.
Throw a whole chicken in there and cook it up for dinner.
Yeah. So I think that's just really great. Especially, I'm thinking to myself, in the summer when I don't want to heat up the house. That's why I like this whole outside thing, is because you're paying all that money to cool your house, and then you're turning your oven on and heating the house up.
Yeah,
I just like the idea of.
Oh, yeah, and it's great. Plus, you're just saving resources. I mean, if your oven in the house is running on electric or gas or whatever it's running on, it's just stuff you're using, but sun comes free.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Some days.
Most days. Well, up here, we haven't seen it in a really long time.
During the summer, you get a lot.
Right.
You'll be able to use a lot of this stuff through the summer months and really get a lot of benefit from them for sure. So, yeah, definitely fireplace, cooking space in that realm as well. Now, the next one. I have some of these built.
I do not.
Not.
A compost bin. Yeah. I really like this one because it's really simple. The sides come on and off as you add to it, and then it also has like a covering that you can put on it to keep the rain from washing out.
Again, this can be super simple, or it can be complex. You can get like some pallets and make like a 3-bay composting system, or you can actually get some nice lumber and make something you can remove the boards and do it that way. You can do it a lot of different ways. And I've got several different setups here. I have a pallet one. I have some store-bought compost bins. I literally I started back in the fall. I just started a pile. Like I have a pile back here in the corner of my property that I started as a compost pile that I really should surround with something, but I didn't. I just kind of started piling stuff up because I had a lot and all my bins were full, and I'm like, this looks like a good spot. Let's just start another pile, But yeah,
mine's just a hay bale one.
Yeah. You can do that too. Just contain it with something. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, that's an easy build. It's an easy build, but it's something that
so useful,
very useful. Yeah, get you a compost bin started. And then planters is the next thing we're talking about.
When I put this in here, I was thinking more of like our very small, like we both have small properties, but some people have literally like a few square feet of grass, but they do have a patio.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking, you can make some really pretty planters. Some of these are like 3-tiered that you could put herbs and stuff in.
Yeah.
Some of them are the really in style right now, this whole concrete look, and it shows you how to make concrete ones. But you could put these literally on a porch or a balcony and have a little tiny homestead right there in the urban city or something.
Yeah, I need to add a link to the one I've got in here with of a planter bed with a trellis, because I did that. I built 2 of those, and they just have a little box, so basically a raised bed at the bottom, that's just built maybe 10-12 inches tall, and then I actually got lattice. I squared off the back with 2x4s and put lattice up the back, and I grow every year. I grow green beans up that, or cucumbers.
Oh, nice.
I've done both. I've done green beans and cucumbers, but they're great for that. This little boxes at
Yeah,
the
you
bottom.
should add that.
Yeah, I'll put the link in there for the one I built. I see you also have another link in here for one also. It might be similar. I don't know. I have to look at that.
Yeah.
The next thing you added was a rain chain. I had never thought about that.
Yeah. So when you get like these
I'm seeing them.
downpours, it's
Yeah.
nice to slow that water down and not have it just dump off your roof, which is kind of tied to another thing that you added, which is rain barrels later. But the rain chain, it can just slow it down. And then a lot of people here, because this is Michigan. I'm sorry if you're listening in Arizona, but you do still get, I mean, when you guys get rain out there, you get an event.
Yeah.
But it just slows it down a little bit. And then we try to take it away from the house with the basement and that kind of stuff. But they're just they're pretty and fun but yet functional, because you do not want all that water right up next to your foundation.
Right. So this is in lieu of gutters, or is in combination with gutters that you're thinking about having rain chain?
It can be both. It can be in lieu of them, or it can be in combination, because your gutters can funnel it to one spot and then have it.
But it is funny how water will basically walk down a chain.
Yeah.
Isn't
it's
it?
really
I mean, I've
pretty.
seen it
And
done
some
too.
of them are just kind of mesmerizing.
Yeah, it'll follow the chain. It'll just kind of cling to it almost and kind of just walk right away with it. It is pretty neat. I've seen it. And it's not a bad idea, especially if you don't have gutters that are taking it away. Yeah, have maybe some chains up or something and walk it where you want it. It does work. And then we've talked a lot about this next one several times on different episodes, but it's something that I feel like is really worth having on your property. Now there's one I don't have on here yet, but I want to build some and put them on my property, some bat houses, but bird, bat, and bee houses, I think are great additions to your property, for a lot of reasons, for pollination and for just predators to come in to eat bad bugs, and, just to see nature too. It's just great to have it in your yard.
Yeah. I think, if you're homeschooling or you have grandkids or little kids too, what a great way to study nature if you bring nature right to your backyard and the kids can watch that and learn to identify, oh, that's a bluebird, that's a chickadee, that's a wren. It's just really cool. Plus, it's great for your backyard. And these are ones I feel like you could almost do most of these for free if you got pallet wood.
Yeah, you could use some cheap scrap lumber or pallet wood or whatever.
Yeah.
And like the bee houses, like we built some like the little bee houses with the little tubes in them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can just go get like some reeds or whatever in different size ones and stick in a little box.
Those are like the native bees too.
Yeah, for the native bees, which are great pollinator bees. And bring them into your property for pollination. Bring them into your property as predators to get rid of bad pests. And bring them in just to enjoy them. And bat houses, we've talked about this before on the podcast, but you can buy them or you can build them. But building them doesn't look very difficult. So build some. I think I need to add. Definitely need to build some and put all over the property. I'd like to have some.
They're huge at eating like mosquitoes.
We have a lot of bats around here. Like I see them in the evening in the summertime, especially. They're just swooping down everywhere around here.
We get them eating bugs over the lake a lot.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the deal. A lot of these things too are maybe possibly little side hustles for making some of these.
Yeah, you could sell them. Yeah.
Yeah, not just the birdhouses, but even like, so a lot of this is DIY stuff. So a lot of the stuff you could even sell possibly as a little side hustle. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the next one you did, I don't have any experience with this, and it can be a little complicated. So I thought maybe.
Well, I added a link to as far as adding rain barrels and whatnot, rain catchment. It's really not that complicated. It's having a container that catches rain. It's just how you get it there. It's nice if you can set it off of a roof and collect it in mass. Is really nice. Get it off of a downspout, and there's different. I actually put a link in the show notes for actually a podcast episode that I did a long time ago. But there's a lot of links in there for like the pieces and parts, because there's diverters that will like called like a first flush diverter that'll get rid of the leaves and the junk first, and then it'll switch over and put the cleaner water into your tank. There's just different things you can add to it to make it better, or you can just basically catch water. I mean, I've set trash cans out and let them fill with rainwater before, and it works, and you can dip that out and pour it on your garden, or you can have setups where hoses hook to it and you can gravity, use a hose to your garden and I do want to add more. We have some here. I have an IBC tote, so that's 200 and I think 75-gallon one off my barn roof. I could add a lot more to my barn roof. I have a 55-gallon off my house roof that I catch also. And then we also have the pond, which we can talk about later for water catchment, but there's other places I can get water from as well. But I think I could add, I would like to have thousands of gallons of rain catchment on my property, actually, especially this last year. I really woke up to it last year because we had that drought.
Yes.
And I ran out within just a few days. We ran
out. One of our ponds dried up, and that's what we were watering trees from. And so I would really like to do some water catchment at our property. A lot.
And people get concerned, like if you have an asphalt roofing and things like that. And but that water's running off of your roof anyway and going to the ground.
True.
So, divert it, do a first flush divert, get most of the big stuff off, and then catch the rest and use it. I mean, you could filter it if you wanted, but that water's going to the ground regardless. And so it's still ending up in your soil. So to say it's not, can't use that water doesn't make a lot of sense. If now my barn roof is metal roof, so that's even ideal. That's ideal, really.
Yeah.
If you got that, but I'm not even against using an asphalt roof, the water off of that. Now, if you have a really old one and you're seeing just tons of it coming off, now you got a different issue there. But it's pretty durable and it holds up pretty good. I have the one on my house, and I see very little residue from that roof ever end up in that. I mean, I don't really notice any.
Okay.
It's not that old of a roof. We had to put on a few years ago, so it's not that old. But I don't know if it got older. You might notice chunks, pieces of it showing up in there, but not a big deal to me anyway.
Right.
But yeah, it can be as simple as just catching water. I mean, you could set a barrel out and let it fill up with water, or just get it under your downspout, and you're going to collect tons of it, and you can just use, just grab containers to take it to your garden if you have to. It can be that simple. But it's a good thing to add to your backyard for your garden. I mean, like I said, a good drought year will really open your eyes up to the importance of having that.
Last year, I think a lot of places had droughts.
And I knew it was important, but I didn't have near enough. And it's definitely something that we need to
we never dreamed that whole pond would dry up. Yeah. Never.
Yeah. I mean, IBC totes work really, really good. They're like 275, some of them's 300 gallon. You can stack those. I mean, you can build some pretty nice systems out of there. They're just not really pretty, but you can wrap them. Not. You can wrap them in wood or whatever. Yeah, you can do different
somehow
things.
Make them look nice somehow.
Yeah. Or you can buy the really big barrels, the big actual water collection. I mean, some of them things are 1,000, 1,500 or more gallons. I've seen them huge setups. Take up a lot of space, but you'll have a lot of water with those for sure. So yeah.
Well, this next one, I think you
nope, you added it.
Did I?
Yeah.
Okay. Wicking beds. Did I add this?
I think I added the link though.
I was to say you may have added the link, but like you have some experience with wicking beds. I have been interested in them. But I have not made one. It's kind of further down on
with them. Yeah. I made a little temporary. I made them out of used them in I made some wicking pots before.
Okay. But I have friends that do this a lot, especially in dry climates.
I've seen some pretty nice setups with wicking beds that work really, really good. I've seen people even tie them into aquaponics systems and hydroponic systems, and use them in combination with that. That works really, really good. But I put a link in for a simple construction one. There's tons of different designs out there. A nice Google search will do you well on looking for some good plans for wicking beds. There are a lot of different ways to set them up.
So
like I said, they can be really small, and you can even do like the ones for pots and make wicking pots, or you can make full size raised beds that are wicking beds. that are really, really nice, and they save a lot of water. They are really drought resistant when they're
Yes.
set up right, which is a big plus in certain areas. So there's some benefits to having wicking beds if there's something you want in your property. And I've thought about putting them in at times. And after last year, it became a bigger
I know.
consideration. Again, that drought woke me up to a lot of realities that a lot of people already face, have always faced in other parts of the
Right.
country that I just never had to deal with, because here rain just falls from the sky and soil is just naturally good for planting in. I mean, there's just things we don't have to do that other people have to do, So, but yeah, it now becomes something that's on my radar.
Yeah.
And the
It's
next thing we talked a little bit about already in outdoor cooking spaces, but this is probably more for in a space to enjoy, I think.
yeah. Yeah.
Fire pits. Yeah, we talked about it, but they're just nice to enjoy. Sit around the fire.
Have company over, show 'em your gardens.
We spend a lot of time. We have a camper at a campground that we leave at a campground. So
Right.
that is our pastime there. We go out there and we sit around the fire. And so we do it there a lot.
It's probably not something you do much if you live in like Arizona or something, but here
Right.
it's kind of a big pastime to sit around the
Yeah.
fire, and we cook a lot over the fire.
Mhm.
And I think, if you kind of live in your backyard and you're trying to create this little oasis, it's just nice to have it look pretty too.
It is. Yeah. I got a
So,
little fire
yeah.
pit right about, I don't know, maybe 12 feet away from my little backyard pond, which we'll talk about here in a minute, is one of my things I added. But yeah, I mean, it's just you can sit out there in a lawn chair and a nice warm night next to my
Mhm.
little backyard pond and hear the water run down I got a little river set up on that, and you can hear it flowing. And then, I'm sitting there around a fire cooking or reading my Kindle or whatever, just kick back and
Yeah.
relaxing. And it's nice. It's really nice to have that in the backyard. Makes a
Yeah.
nice
And some of
little
these even have like benches built in, and
Yeah.
some of them are wood, some of them are
And-
stone. So
Rachel, I think we really sometimes we get so focused on the function of our property and the output that we tend to forget that that's another really important aspect of our homestead, is a place to relax and
yeah.
let some stress off and just kind of enjoy, and having sitting places and a fireplace, a fire pit and whatnot. These are just places you can sit and enjoy your homestead. And I think we need to put more importance on that sometimes, because you can eat right all day long, but if you're stressed out, you're still unhealthy.
Right.
No,
Right.
I mean,
Well, and it just
stress is
takes care
important.
of that. I'm not a great blogger yet, but it just takes care of that zone 0, which I've done a blog
Yes,
post
that's the
on, and one of
key.
them was talking about the infrared from fire, and
Yeah,
it's just so relaxing. And we do need to take care of ourselves, our zone 0.
yeah, we
And
do.
you
I
you
think it's
kind of turned
important.
me onto that from Ben Falk. So
Yeah, I heard that phrase one time. He called,
Yeah.
zone 0 being your living space, your house or whatever. And he says, but zone 0, he's talking about self-care. And I'm like,
that's you.
oh,
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. That's exactly what that is. That's nothing
Yeah,
any
and it's
closer than that.
family care too, and friend care. I mean, you can have family and
Yeah.
friends over and sit
It's
around a
really
fire and
important.
laugh, and yeah.
I mean, it's the thing, you can be so focused on the production of your homestead, but if you don't just sit back and enjoy it, sometimes you're going to get burnt out. It's
Oh, yeah.
nice just to take a walk around your homestead or just sit and watch the things, watch the birds and the, whatever flying around, and just watch your homestead or take a walk
Watch what
through
you've
it.
created.
And
Yeah.
it's enjoyable, and it will, when the stress of the work wears you down, that can carry you through, is having a place you can enjoy. So it's
And
important.
a little, you guys won't hear it yet, but what's coming out is an interview that I did with a young couple. And one of the phrases he used a few times in it was, they're designing a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I think that's what this is about. We're trying to design a lifestyle as homesteaders, not only that where we provide for ourselves and create the self-sustainable lifestyle, but also a lifestyle that we don't need a vacation from. We're trying
Right.
to design an enjoyable life that's healthy and fulfilling too. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah.
Well, we went from relaxing and enjoying to something a little more high tech and a little more intense, and that's an aquaponic system. I love having an aquaponic system. I've had one for years. I've had a couple of them for years. Having one outside, a chop and flip is an easy design to build. I mean, just taking an IBC tote and what they call a chop and flip design. I got a blog post in here of the one I built. and it's still out here, it's still working, and it's still part of my homestead. And I, there's just something about it's like a big science project. It's fun. And sometimes when nothing else is growing, stuff will grow in there. Drought doesn't bother an aquaponic system because you got water flow all the time. They actually use a lot less water, even though they're running on water. They use less water because the only way it's really getting used is just the uptake and what's evaporating. It's not soaking into the ground, but I like having an aquaponic system, but it's not everybody's cup of tea. But I think it's a fun build. And if it's something that you're even remotely interested in, put one of those in your backyard. It's a pretty fun little project for sure.
I've wanted to do that. My daughter has a couple of goldfish that she's been wanting to get rid of. So maybe one of these projects will help that.
What I've discovered is even if you don't want to use it for growing your food, it's fantastic for propagating cuttings.
Yeah, you were showing that.
For nothing else than that, propagate cuttings with it, because I have just come to discover that, man, nothing will root your cuttings faster than sticking them in an aquaponic system. I mean, I've just had the best luck with that. So, I mean, honestly, that's what mine is pretty much being used for now. I'm not even growing food in it. I mean, I might grow more food in it in the summer months, but right now it's just cuttings, rooting cuttings, and it's working great. So, yeah, it's worth having just for that, because the money that can save you is crazy.
Right.
Just rooting cuttings, because buying plants is buying trees and bushes and all that stuff is a high cost. So if you can root your own cuttings and pop them in the soil, hey, that right there pays for the aquaponic system. It's worth having just for that. Something else I added a few years ago that I can't imagine not having is a backyard pond. I love my little backyard pond. It's a great little homestead project. And not just because of the aesthetics of it. It is enjoyable. It is something just neat to sit by and watch. And we've had many hours around that pond. My grandkids love it. But also it has some homestead benefits. It can do a lot of things. I mean, it brings in some beneficial predators.
Yeah.
I mean, you get toads and frogs and snakes and things like that will come in around a pond. It actually will, bring in other kinds of wildlife too. So you got to watch that. But it actually works as a heat sink. It acts as a water reserve for spare water if you need it. I mean, it just does a lot of things. There's things you can grow around a pond and even in a pond that that won't grow anywhere else. So, I mean, it can be used as a tool, to function stack on your homestead also. And so it's worth having, even if it's just a small one. Mine's a small backyard pond. It's one of these little decorative hobby ponds, but I love it. We love having it. We put the little bridge over it, and people who's followed me.
So yours is a little bit bigger then too.
Well, it's not that big. I just kind of designed it. I actually made a river that runs to it also, and the pump.
I know, I've seen it. It's so pretty. Your backyard is just so beautiful.
It's not that big, but it's just the way it's designed. It's enjoyable. It's
right.
I don't even know. I think my aquaponic system in my greenhouse probably holds more water than that pond does. Honestly. Okay.
Do you have any fish in your pond?
Yeah, there's goldfish in there. And there's frogs just end up in there. Like, we're in the city, but frogs end up in there, and
they find a way. They find a way.
Up in there, and other, you might see some, depending where you live, you'll see some lizards or whatever. You'll see some different things in there, that'll just show up, and it just becomes this nice little space,
Yeah. We don't have one because we have our natural
You
water,
guys live next to a pond. Yeah. I mean, you have that, but I mean, if you don't have that, put in a little backyard pond. They're nice to have. They're just great to have in, and they're just nice to look at and enjoy. And again, work on that zone 0
and
0,
you can grow food in your pond.
You absolutely can. Yeah.
Yeah.
You sure can. Cress and things like that. You could, like my little river system, and work great for that, and I actually have trouble finding edible things.
Well,
I looked for some water. I wanted to do water chestnut one time, and I couldn't find it. Like I looked for it and I couldn't even find it. Like I'm gonna look again. That was a few years ago. I'd like to look again, because I'd like to have that in like aquaponic systems and ponds and things. Because I hear so many good things about the production of water chestnut. It really is really prolific. So I'd love to have it, but it's actually hard to get started with. It seems like if anybody knows, where I can get that, turn me on to it, because I'd love to have some.
I don't know if duckweed grows in a movable pond, but duckweed is really stagnant. We get it in our stagnant pond, but it's actually really good food for animals.
So. Yes, you could grow stuff like that as well if in a pond that wasn't flowing. Mine's flowing,
right? Yeah, yours is flowing.
Water. Yeah.
But that's what that watercress and stuff likes, that moving
flowing water. Yeah, it does. And then we have one more thing on here that I just added last night, potting bench.
Yeah, I don't know how I missed that, but
Yeah, I
yeah.
wasn't thinking about it because I have one in the greenhouse. Kind of, I have an area there where I pot things up and stuff. But yeah, if you don't have a place, man, it's just nice to have a place outside where you can just pot things up or put your, get your seed started and or pot up plants or whatever. It's just nice to have a potting bench outside. It keeps the dirt outside, of course. I mean, there was years there where I did this kind of stuff at the kitchen table with a lot of dirty looks.
I do
Dirt
mine inside
everywhere,
right now.
seeding things. Yeah, I do all of that. I still do that sometimes when it's too cold outside to go out and do anything else. So we'll do it there, early spring projects and stuff. But it's nice to have a potting bench. It's nice to just get outside and you might want that in the shade so you're not standing in the sun doing all this stuff, and just design it, put it in the right place and design it in a way you can have it be a place where you keep a few of your tools and keep a few of your supplies. I've seen some really elaborate. I've seen some that were just nothing but a flat bench, and then I've seen some
that are pretty elaborate.
Yeah, they have like the cabinets and have the space underneath to store the stuff, and really nice ones. You can see some really nice setups. So again, I put a link in the show notes for this as well that has a few designs, but Google can be your friend there too, and Pinterest as well, and you can find some really, really neat ideas for building some nice potting benches.
Yeah. And a lot of these have some of the I tried to find links that actually had plans in them. So
yeah, I was looking for plans or some really nice pictures of stuff too.
Yeah.
So you'll see.
It's always nice to have plans sometimes, especially if you're a little bit like me and not as gifted with the building.
I tend to look less at the actual plan and more at the picture, because I will change plans. It's like I'll look at a picture and go, okay, I like that, but I wish it had this. So I can build things from a picture.
But you're you're better at
that. I'm a builder. I just look at things and I get ideas.
My husband can do that. He'll just think it up and build it, and it'll all the corners will meet. But if I do that, the corners won't meet.
I do like having a picture for an idea though, and just kind of get an idea what I'm thinking about and take me down a path, and then I'll build something pretty nice. But now folks, you will want to go to the show notes on this today, because we got links under every one of these. Yes. There's tons of links in this one. So there'll be the link there that you can click over to. And I mean, these are there's more obviously things, but these were 21, supposed to have been 12 to start with, but turned into 21. Ideas basically of things you can build, beneficial projects for your backyard. All of these things have benefits. Some of these things have multiple benefits. Some of these things are, you could function stack these things. But all these things can be a great addition to your homestead for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
I agree.
And now I have to go build a few of them. So
I know this is like I need to decide which one's first. But
you and I both have a lot of these already. But there's definitely the solar dehydrator is definitely top on my list this year. I gotta have one. I'm just dehydrating way too much now to not have one. It's the next thing I'm building on this property.
I just want to, and now is the perfect time for us anyways. So in some places, there might be still gardening season or a better gardening season for other people. But in our off season is when we kind of start thinking about stuff like this. And
definitely. Yeah. Solar hydrator for me, definitely adding more water collection this year. I like the idea of the drying racks you're talking about too. I might have to look into that.
Yeah.
And
for me, it's the water
project,
compost bin, and 100%. I'm going to be doing bird, bat, and bee houses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, already have.
But I really do want to do the outdoor kitchen thing, especially at our property. I didn't go out there to spend my whole time inside cooking something. So
an outdoor kitchen's great. Outdoor cooking area is great. And like I said, we do a lot of cooking outside. If we're not at the campground, we're here and we got a gazebo out there with a roof over it. So we got our grill there. We got, a place we can wash things off out there. Got a table out there. I do a lot of canning out there. Like I'll bring out the canning equipment and do it outside. Even if I'm using my electric canner, I'll bring it outside and set it on that table out there and let it do it out there. I set the dehydrator out there. I mean, I just do a lot of stuff outside.
Yeah, that would be so nice. We don't do much outside because we don't have a spot for it.
Yeah, if you got a roof over you, it's nice. Yeah,
no roofs over us here. So we got to fix that. I got to fix that.
It's a nice thing to have. So, well, there you have it, folks. Like I said, maybe this gave you some ideas. Maybe it just added to your to-do list and you're mad at us now. I don't know. But there you have it. Some great projects to build coming up on the warmer months. After you get that garden in, get it going, then you get that little bit of a break while you're waiting for things to grow. You can get started on some of these projects that you really want in your backyard. I know that's what I'll be doing.
Yeah.
So,
Same.
anything else, Rachel?
I think that's it.
All right, folks. Thanks for joining us today. And until next time, happy homesteading. God bless.
And grow where you're planted.
Looking around, I finally see I think I need a change. The rat race, I wanna flee. My world I'll rearrange. I'm getting back to the roots of how it's meant to be. Growing gardens, picking fruit, racing livestock, living free. It's a modern homestead. Build a modern homestead. A lot of folks don't understand why I wanna live this way. They've never eaten from their land like we do here every day. Snapping beans like Grandma did, sitting on her front porch. Hunting and fishing like a kid once you've done all of your chores. It's a modern homestead. Build a modern homestead. Country or city, there's a way to make this change. You gotta start today.